You think you know your cat? You might be wrong. That adorable creature currently napping might be silently battling an invisible enemy you never considered: the cold. The shocking truth is, your kitty could be freezing right now, hiding the secret struggle with subtle clues. We're revealing the 7 critical signs you're missing. Stick around, because number 5 changes everything. Sign 1. The perplexing pursuit of peculiar perches. You walk into a room and find your cat… where exactly? Not on their plush cat bed, not even on your lap for once. Instead, they're meticulously squeezed behind the refrigerator or perched precariously on top of a warm cable box. Maybe they're burrowed deep inside a laundry basket overflowing with freshly dried clothes, even if it means dislodging your clean socks. This isn't just quirky cat behavior. This isn't just them being cats. This is a calculated, instinctual move. They are actively seeking out microclimates, tiny pockets of warmth that we, with our thick skin and constant body heat, barely even register. Think about it. Why would a creature of comfort abandon their expensive orthopedic pet bed for a dusty spot behind an appliance? Because that spot, however inconvenient or bizarre it seems to us, offers a crucial advantage: residual heat. The hum of the fridge, the warmth from electronics, the lingering heat in freshly tumbled fabrics. These are irresistible beacons in a world that feels just a little too chilly. Now, you might be thinking, my cat just loves tight spaces. And yes, they do. But there's a critical difference between seeking a cozy hideaway and actively gravitating towards heat sources that are far from their usual sleeping spots. Are they ignoring their favorite window perch, which usually offers a sunbath, for a less glamorous but warmer alternative? This isn't just about finding warmth. It's about prioritizing warmth above all else. It's a silent declaration that their internal thermostat is screaming for a boost. And if you're seeing this behavior, it's the first subtle clue that your cat isn't just being eccentric. They're trying to tell you something vital. But here's the twist. What if they're doing something even stranger? Something that looks like grooming, but is actually a desperate attempt to stay warm. Sign 2. The obsessive over-groomer. A furry facade? Cats are fastidious creatures, known for their impeccable grooming habits. They spend hours licking, preening, and generally making themselves presentable. It's their natural state. But what if that meticulous grooming suddenly becomes excessive? What if your cat is grooming so much that it starts to look less like hygiene and more like a compulsive ritual? You might notice them focusing intensely on one particular spot, licking it bald, or creating matted fur from constant attention. Or perhaps they're simply grooming far more frequently than usual, even after they've just cleaned themselves. This isn't just a sign of stress or allergies, though those are valid concerns. It can also be a desperate attempt to warm up. Here's the little-known secret. When a cat grooms, they stimulate blood flow to the surface of their skin. It's a subtle but effective way to generate a tiny bit of internal heat. Think of it like a mini workout for their fur. They're trying to create friction, to get their circulation moving, to fight off that persistent chill. Imagine a cat in the wild, without the luxury of a heated home. When temperatures drop, they rely on their instincts. And one of those instincts is to keep their fur in prime condition, not just for cleanliness, but for insulation. A well-groomed coat, free of mats and tangles, traps air more effectively, creating a natural barrier against the cold. So if your cat is suddenly obsessed with their fur, spending an inordinate amount of time licking and primping, ask yourself, is this truly about cleanliness, or is it a more primal urge taking over? Are they trying to optimize their natural insulation because the ambient temperature just isn't cutting it? But here's the unsettling thought. What if they're not just grooming themselves, but also seeking warmth from you in a way that's far more intrusive and telling than a simple cuddle? Sign 3. The unusually affectionate or annoying shadow. We all cherish those moments when our cat deigns to grace us with their presence, perhaps even curling up on our lap for a rare cuddle. But what if this affectionate behavior suddenly shifts? What if your once independent feline suddenly transforms into your constant shadow, weaving between your legs, demanding attention, and relentlessly trying to burrow under your clothes? This isn't just a sudden surge of adoration. This isn't just them missing you. This is a strategic, instinctual plea for warmth. You, dear human, are a giant, walking, purring, well, maybe not purring, but you get the idea, heat source. And a cold cat will instinctively gravitate towards the warmest thing in the room. And often, that's you. They might try to sleep directly on your chest, even if they usually prefer the foot of the bed. They might wedge themselves under your arm, or persistently try to burrow beneath the covers, pushing their way closer and closer to your body heat. It's not always about love. Sometimes it's about survival. Think of a kitten seeking warmth from its mother and littermates. That primal instinct never truly leaves them. When they feel a persistent chill, they revert to those deeply ingrained behaviors. They seek out the largest, most consistent heat source available. And in your home, that's often you. Now, don't get me wrong, enjoy the extra cuddles, but also pay attention to the intensity and persistence of this behavior. Is it more than just a passing moment of affection? Are they relentlessly seeking physical contact, almost desperate for your warmth? This clinginess might manifest in other ways too, like always sleeping right next to you or even on your head rather than in their own bed. It's a silent alarm, a furry cry for help that's easy to misinterpret as simple affection. But if you think that's an easily missed sign, wait until you hear about a behavior so subtle, so ancient, it speaks to their very wild origins. Sign 4. The tucked-in tail and the tight ball, a feline fortress. How does your cat typically sleep? Splayed out, belly up, vulnerable and relaxed? Or curled into a perfect, almost geometrically precise ball, tail tucked tightly around their body, head often nestled into their flank? The way your cat positions themselves for sleep offers a profound insight into their comfort level. When a cat feels cold, their instinct is to minimize heat loss. And the most effective way to do that is to reduce their exposed surface area. They curl into a tight ball, essentially creating a furry sphere. Their tail, a surprisingly vital heat-retaining appendage, is often wrapped snugly around their body, covering their nose and paws, areas where heat can escape quickly. Imagine a cat in the wilderness facing a cold night. They don't have blankets or central heating. Their survival depends on their ability to conserve every joule of warmth. And this tight ball posture is a masterpiece of natural engineering for heat retention. Now, a cat might occasionally sleep curled up even when warm, simply because it feels secure. But if this becomes their dominant sleeping position, if you rarely see them sprawled out, even in what you perceive as a comfortable room, it's a strong indicator that they're actively trying to keep warm. Look closely. Is their fur puffed up slightly? Are their ears flattened just a little more? These are all subtle adjustments aimed at creating an insulating layer of air around their body. They are literally building a tiny, personal fortress against the cold. This isn't just about looking cute and cozy, it's about a deep evolutionary response to thermal discomfort. It's a nonverbal message, clear as day if you know how to read it. But here's the twist. What if their cold isn't just affecting their sleep, but also their most basic, vital functions? Functions we rarely associate with temperature. Sign 5. The Metabolic Mystery, a hidden hunger and thirst shift. This sign is perhaps the most surprising, and the one most likely to catch even experienced cat owners off guard. It dives deep into the subtle physiological changes that occur when a cat is trying to regulate its body temperature. We're talking about shifts in their appetite and even their water intake. When a cat is consistently cold, their body has to work harder to maintain its core temperature. This requires energy. And where does energy come from? Food. You might notice your cat seems hungrier than usual, even ravenous at times. They might demand food more frequently or devour their meals with an unusual urgency. This isn't gluttony. This is their metabolism kicking into overdrive, burning more calories to generate internal heat. Their body is signaling a need for more fuel to combat the chill. It's an internal furnace demanding more coal. But here's the crucial, often overlooked detail. While they might eat more, they might also drink less water or seem less enthusiastic about hydration. This might seem counterintuitive. If their metabolism is working harder, shouldn't they be thirstier? Not necessarily. When an animal is cold, its body prioritizes conserving heat. They might drink less to avoid further cooling their internal systems, or simply because their activity levels might decrease slightly, reducing the immediate sensation of thirst. This can lead to a sneaky form of mild dehydration, further stressing their system. Imagine a survival scenario. You'd prioritize food for energy, but conserve water, knowing that extreme cold can mask thirst. Cats, with their desert origins, are naturally adept at conserving water. But in a cold home, this natural tendency can become a problem. So, if your cat is suddenly a bottomless pit when it comes to food, but seems less interested in their water bowl, or if their litter box habits show signs of less frequent urination, it's a critical red flag. These are not isolated incidents, they are connected, part of a metabolic cascade triggered by a persistent chill. And if you think that's a complex sign to decipher, wait until you uncover the subtle communication cues that reveal their discomfort, clues often mistaken for mere grumpiness. Sign 6. The subtle shiver and the stiff stance. Unspoken discomfort. We often associate shivering with extreme cold, with visible shaking and chattering teeth. But for cats, especially those who are trying to hide their vulnerability, shivering can be far more subtle. It's not always a dramatic, full-body tremble. Sometimes it's a tiny, almost imperceptible quiver in their back muscles, or a slight ripple of their fur, especially when they're sitting still. You might only catch it if you're looking very closely, in just the right light. It's their body attempting to generate heat through involuntary muscle contractions, but they're trying to keep it a secret. Beyond the subtle shiver, look at their posture. A cold cat often appears stiff. Their movements might be less fluid, less graceful. They might walk with a slightly hunched back, or appear reluctant to stretch out fully. Their muscles are tensed, not just from cold, but from the effort of trying to stay warm. It's a protective posture, a way of guarding their core heat. Imagine a person shivering subtly indoors, trying to act normal even though they're freezing. They might cross their arms tightly, pull their shoulders up, and generally stiffen their posture to conserve heat. Cats do the same, but with their own feline elegance. Their ears might be slightly flattened or pulled back, not necessarily in aggression, but in a subtle gesture of discomfort. Their whiskers might be less splayed, tucked closer to their face. These are all micro-expressions of a creature trying to withdraw, trying to become smaller, less exposed to the biting air. This isn't about being grumpy or moody. It's about a physical sensation that's deeply unpleasant. If your cat, usually a picture of liquid grace, seems a little more rigid, a little less keen to stretch and play, consider the temperature. This is their body language speaking volumes, even if their voice remains silent. But if you think these physical cues are hard to spot, the next sign is a complete absence of something you usually take for granted. Sign 7. The Vanishing Act, the great outdoors avoidance. For outdoor cats, or even indoor cats who enjoy supervised patio time, a sudden and persistent reluctance to go outside is a major red flag. This isn't just about preferring the cozy indoors. It's about an instinctive avoidance of something they perceive as a threat: the cold. If your cat usually loves to patrol the garden, chase leaves, or simply bask in the fresh air, but suddenly starts pressing themselves against the back door, sniffing hesitantly, and then retreating with a look of profound disapproval, they're telling you the outdoor world is too cold for their comfort. Even for indoor-only cats, this sign can manifest. If they usually love to sit by a particular window, but now avoid it, especially if that window feels drafty, it's a clue. They are actively choosing not to engage with environments that bring them discomfort. Imagine a dog who usually loves walks, suddenly refusing to step outside when it's raining or cold. It's a clear signal. Cats are just as sensitive, if not more so. Their relatively small body mass means they lose heat quickly, and their natural aversion to water and extreme temperatures makes cold and damp conditions particularly unwelcome. This isn't them being lazy, this is them being smart. They are listening to their bodies, and their bodies are screaming, "Too cold! Retreat!" It's a fundamental survival mechanism. So, if your adventurous explorer suddenly becomes a homebody, or your window-perching sun worshipper abandons their post, don't dismiss it as a change in personality. Consider the environment. Has the temperature dropped? Is there a new draft? They are making a very clear choice to avoid the cold, even if that means sacrificing their favorite outdoor activities. And understanding these signs is just the beginning of truly creating a cozy haven for your feline friend. Thanks for watching.